engineer. He's an ace pro, and he worked on Exadata for many years. So I am pretty sure his knowledge will help us to achieve personal goals as well as the business goals. Karan, you can take over and start the session.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much, Zahir. And firstly, I would like to thank the KSA team, the community team, the user group team, Basha and Zahir. We are all inspired by them, especially they are the first people, from the region to become ACEs, Middle East, whether it is India. So thank you so much for all the inspiration, ACE program, or whether it is e-business suite, all those things. So we are all inspired. So thanks for always sharing your knowledge through books, blogs, and everything. So I was, I always remember the good old days. So now today, what we will be talking about is the Exadata, X10M, as Zahir said that you know we will talk about what is new offering because there are some people who might be on now. I have personally worked a lot on X8M as well as X6 and X7. So I am a basically an Exadata. You can call me a automation engineer or a DevOps engineer now because career wise, to be frank, we all have changed, right? There is no such thing today as DBA because talking about normal database administration, it is purely almost gone, right? You will not, may not have a DBA, just who knows, to add table space or data files, basic administration or just performance tuning, let's say. So couple of packages, one should have at least two, three skills minimum. So I have changed, as an engineer a lot as well. So doing a lot of DevOps, Python, Jenkins, Ansible, Terraform, so basically, when it comes to Exadata, definitely we have procured recently X10M. Some of them are even basically in process. So whether it is Azure on Exadata at Azure, that's also the talks in progress. So, but the thing is, mainly I work for Fidelity International. It's a financial asset management company. At Fidelity, it has been 5 years to me. I'm working since 5 years. Before that, I've also worked in some companies which are related to Oracle products. Some of my time I've spent in trainings as well, training customers, corporate trainings, few years. You know, so it's really an interesting journey. So I belong to I was born and brought up in Chandigarh. That's a place in North India. So, but my second home has always been Middle East because I have mostly been in, let's say Abu Dhabi, Oman, or Middle East regions, So Middle East has always been my second home. Now, basically, now what I'll do is because there was a lot of storm and thunder and lightning last night here, and still it's a bit windy. What I'm going to do is for a moment, just I mean, stop my video just to ensure I have enough bandwidth of internet. So we're going to talk about, uh, you know, X10M. This is a particular session, so this is what we will talk about. Fortunately, I've also been a part of ACE program following, Basha and Zahir. So after that, also after them, I also had a chance to become a part of ACE program, and it was really inspiring because ACE actually means is you are sharing knowledge, through books, articles, blogs, whichever means basically. So that's a very good thing too, because it's like for no personal benefit, you are serving the society, helping people in their careers, isn't it? So that's what our passion has always been. Now, what's basically X10M? Now, Oracle has been from X10 from X8M. Basically, they introduced something called Intel Optane memory. When I talk about Intel Optane memory, what I mean is basically is persistent memory, PMEM cache. If I show you 1 second for an architecture, just for 1 second, I'm gonna just talk about this slide here. What this actually means is that you know uh, everybody knows, in Exadata we are not going to talk basics here, because we understand that intermediate knowledge is little bit enough, but still people who are new, you would understand the architecture if you are new as well. So we have this network architecture at a glance, right? So in this green color, you would see there are network switches, RDMA switches. So in previous generations like X6, for example, or X7, there were InfiniBand switches. InfiniBand switches, they had some limitations because of the network speed, like 40 gigabits per second, but 100 gigabits per second now comes with the Rocky switches, which is also known as RDMA network fabric switch. Unlike InfiniBand switches, which they offer 100 gigs of speed. Talking about active ports, because there is active bonding from X4 onwards. When we say active bonding, that means both the interfaces are up and running and service double the speed. So you're equivalent to 200 gigabits per second, right? And we basically have a storage server on the right side. If you see a little bit of purple color, storage server, where you see RE1, RE0, they are nothing but network bonded interfaces. So the compute nodes on the left side in blue, Exadata directly server, they are connected with tightly, with network switches, Rocky switches, and you would see RE0, and RE1 are the bonded interfaces. So these are the basically the connections, and client is connected with the bonded interface as well. Net one, net two, it's always bonded. Bonded means if one interface goes down, in Linux, you would see in /etc sysconfig network directory, you would see bonded configuration, right? Your IP addresses, ranges, your configuration. So if one interface goes down, doesn't mean you are down, you're still up and running. That's the benefit of, network bonding. That's what you call it, network bonding, or in other words, you can also say Ethernet bonding. So so you can mute yourself, Sujan, and everybody, uh, people who are joining. So yeah. So another thing is the network. I mean, the management network. Management network is basically to monitor the Exadata machines, because you don't want to go from the Rocky switch network, right? You would go via management network, whether it is ILOM. ILOM, you want to basically, let's say, now you come from Ethernet switch, the Cisco Ethernet switch, when it comes to monitoring or taking ILO command line. ILOM is something that you don't want to visit a data center, but from command line or the ILOM interface, you can do anything. You can physically reboot a server. You can physically power recycle a server. You know, ungraceful. Let's say node is hung, right? You want to reboot it. How would you do? You don't go to data center and press the reset button. You from remotely you can do that, right? So ILOM is something like ILOM is exactly that. That you basically you do things remotely as if you were in data center. So ILOM serves that purpose. Monitor the temperature, monitor the CPU, monitor the power usage, PDUs, power distribution units. PDUs are power distribution units which supply power to the appropriate voltage. So voltage, also with electronics team, they make sure the certain voltage is there, temperature of the machine is taken care of, there should not be any humidity, that you would follow Exadata. I'm going to share today what kind of documentations you can follow to know all about this information when you start your career in Exadata. So career in Exadata is very good as well, because it's very demanding. Exadata is the future. Everywhere Oracle is trying to use Exadata, whether it is cloud on premises, because it serves greatest purpose, that it's fastest machine in the world. And also today, Oracle uses RDMA network even for machine learning generative AI, right? You would see NVIDIA GPUs. These nodes are connected via RDMA, RDMA, networks. RDMA network is something that, you are able to read the memory remotely from the machine. So I am a machine one. I am machine one. I am able to read a remote machine two's memory on the fly, bypassing network, bypassing CPU, context switches, so it improves performance, right? This is what Oracle has been also doing now, even in generative AI. So all the NVIDIA GPUs machines, the superclusters, Oracle has the fastest supercluster now because of RDMA network. So Oracle understands the performance compared to other vendors, much better because of the knowledge and architecture and innovations they have done in terms of hardware and writing the software algorithms over the hardware as well, because they were the one who understood that storage, engineered systems, that storage latency is mostly the most important thing, because people understand CPU and RAM is everything, but no, storage IO latency is also equally important as compare, as long as well as CPU and RAM, right? So now basically coming back to the introduction, right? What's new in Exadata X10M basically. So now the memory is also additional. The CPUs are mainly now basically not Intel, right? Because now we what we are talking about is XR mem, which we will talk about. So basically this is what we will see higher memory capacity if you see there, right? So a higher memory capacity, if you see at the last line, 50% higher memory capacity, isn't it? So this is exactly the game-changing moment. CPUs are also additional, right? So Exadata offers balanced configuration in terms of network performance, you know, basically, scale-out architecture. You can basically combine racks, you can interconnect racks with spine switches. So normally, if I show you the architecture again, I have to go back here. So if you see, sorry, my screen got unshared for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead and share again, Karan.
I don't know what happened. Oh, okay, I see. Sorry, just a second.
No, I
Uh,
just share the whiteboard and then just share the screen, okay? Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let me try now. Is it better?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So basically, uh, uh, we were talking about the network speed basically. So now if you see talking about the architecture level wise, so we have these network switches, something known as InfiniBand switches, right? So if you see in the middle, right? These Rocky switches, they are spine switches. But the thing is, if you want to connect multiple Exadata racks, you would use another switch, something known as spine switch, which is physically similar to a Rocky leaf switches, but it's just that it acts as a master switch where these leaf switches become slave switches, and you connect two racks. Let's say you want to connect two full racks or two half racks in Exadata, you would connect them via master spine switch. Okay, that's basically that's how you connect multiple racks. Now hardware wise, if you see the screen, if you see memory wise, you see 1.5 TB and 2.3 TB and 3.7 TB, 3 TB basically is also possible, not 3.7, but 3072 GB, you can get it upgraded basically. Okay, so these are some great changes when it comes to uh, when it comes to memory, because to be frank, now AMD CPUs have come into the picture, right? AMD processors, right? You would see on the screen two socket each have 96 core AMD EPYC enterprise processors with this particular clock speed up to 3.7 gigahertz. So Oracle has said goodbye to Intel, especially with the Intel Optane memory. So X10M had persistent memory PMM cache, which served few microseconds of latency, but Oracle said bye-bye to Intel Optane memory now. So from X10M onwards, you would see something known as XR memory, RDMA memory. So what will happen now is equivalent to RAM speed, you would read and write the data, right? I'm going to show you the slide as well, right? So these are some major hardware upgrades, unique features, this is, basically, uh, you know, uh, these are unique features basically. So persistent memory is now basically replaced by, XR memory. You still call it RAM or memory because the speed is equivalent to RAM, right? That's why we've used the word memory here, and there are some unique algorithms as we see, and comparable to in memory. When we say in memory, the performance is equivalent. This much number of faster than exadata, X8. We have 2.5x faster speed, a little bit less than 19 microsecond of latency you would see, you know, and these are just numbers, marketing numbers. We will not do enough marketing talks. Instant failure detection as well is still there. Everything is still there. It's just that the Oracle has improved some new features and the hardware, scale out that more faster performance and more CPUs and more memory, which we will talk about in more depth, right? So in a rack, normally the typical problem was if a node is hung, CPU is hung or NIC driver is hung, the problem is node is not responding. So the neighbor node does not come to know that what my neighbor node is doing. Is it hung? Is it not responding? Why it's not responding? I don't know. Load is more. Application started smashing full table scans, IO, because of which CPU queues have gone very high. Load average has increased, that storage is not responding, a lot of all these things. So now if the hardware is good, but it's just that the node is hung because of high load, so accelerator still keeps running. But if we come to know that due to a hardware failure, NIC firmware, let's say NIC card driver failure, firmware hang, we simply evict the node from the cluster. Just a typical rack node eviction scenario, right? So now failure detection is instant within, close to 1 second rather than waiting for 30 seconds of network timeout traditionally, right? So instant failure detection is very quick now because we don't want 30 seconds. 30 seconds of timeout is too huge, isn't it? So we don't want that. And then, or either we keep waiting for voting this timeout, right? Which is again few seconds. We don't want that. In under 1 second, we want to know node is hardware wise, is it good or bad, or it's completely non-functional or not, right? Because node eviction is much better, right? Because writes will not happen there. We want that to happen. Cache fusion. We want that cache fusion or any block transfer should not happen there. Why? Because of simple reasons. We want transaction acid properties, durability, consistency, atomicity, durability, and all that. We don't want basically on a single block two sessions writing, isn't it? We don't want that, right? So if Zahir is writing on same block, I am also writing on same block on some other node. Just imagine the same row is modified without knowing each other. That's not what rack is made for. So we want one of the node to be evicted very quickly so that the acid properties of a transaction is maintained. So starting from X8 M as well until now, we also, because we have Rocky switches, yeah, because InfiniBand never supported KVM virtualization of Linux. We have KVM now because of Rocky switches. There was Zen hypervisor because Zen hypervisor with InfiniBand was there until X7. Because what we want is basically virtualization as well for customers, right? We are trying to do consolidation via Linux KVM hypervisor. Hypervisor is something like, just think about there are two types of hypervisor, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is basically you have a laptop, you put a VMware workstation or a virtual box, you spin a VM inside it, whether it's a MacBook or a Windows laptop, right? That's type 1. But type 2 is for enterprise solutions. In a bare metal physical machine, you install an operating system known as hypervisor. Let's say VMware vSphere, for example. Here it is KVM, Linux KVM, right? You remove the bottleneck of the host OS operating system, which is Windows or MacBook or something like that, right? You directly install a hypervisor, which is OS, and inside that you spin VMs. What you're doing is you're eliminating another layer of operating system. So if I have a virtual box in my laptop, I have a Windows laptop, for example, I have a virtual box. So that Windows, operating system is an additional layer. And then writes will happen from VirtualBox to Windows to storage. So we eliminate that particular OS when it comes to type 2 hypervisor. Customers want to consolidate. Customers want to use virtualization. They want to have tens or dozens of VMs in a single physical server, right? That's why we have even PDBs, right? Multiple PDBs under single CDB. We want consolidation. People are going for cost cutting. People are going for cost cutting. People are going for, consolidations. Oracle says, yes, we have Linux KVM for you. Quarantines in Exadata is something that, if you see Aura 600s, corruptions, basically these are software features just like smart scans, storage indexes. We have quarantines. So we have something called coarse quarantines where, let's say, you select from a table, you select a table and you hit an index and index block, you get Aura 600s, right? So what Oracle Exadata will do,
Hi, Karan. I can't hear you. You're saying something? Hello?
yeah, I'm unmute now. Okay, perfect. Sorry, it seems the rights were not there, but yeah, it's all good now. So uh, I believe I'm audible now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Perfect. Actually, I muted myself and I could not unmute.
Uh,
So sure, thank you. So course quarantines basically coming back. So SQL ID, let's say you are selecting a particular table or an index block, and it starts giving corruption aura 600s, let's say. For some reason, it may not be a block corruption, obviously, because block corruption, is something aura 1578, but not aura 600. But it depends totally. If it crashes, the query does not return result, it gives issues, then Oracle can quarantine that plan and it give you an alternate. So for example, you were getting an index scan, you may not now get smart scan or a full table scan. Okay. So quarantine, basically we learned in COVID or Corona time what the meaning of quarantine is. Quarantine simply means suppress that or hide it, right? So so Oracle will automatically suppress that particular execution plan if you start getting issues, right? Similar thing is for or fine grained as well. For example, there is a bloom filter or a compression happening, via OLTP, you're using hybrid columnar compression, or it's an encrypted table or a chain row. Oracle can do quarantines for that. You can physically do the quarantines as well with cell CLI utility. You go to the storage cell from the compute node and SSH, let's say, to cell, and you can create quarantine yourself as well if you see any issues. So in this example, you see at the last line, you create a quarantine with, say, SQL ID. SQL ID, you give XYZ SQL ID, and you say quarantine plan for DB unique name. Actually, type will be SQL ID, but SQL ID exactly you will give at the last. SQL ID 5xn, 5xn, right? So this actually means that this particular database has an issue with the SQL ID. So Oracle will suppress the problematic plan and give you the good one. Autonomous indexing is basically a feature for only for Exadata customers, right? Automatically, basically there are two modes: reporting mode and implement mode. Reporting mode initially would be better because you know which indexes are recommended. You don't want to create them immediately to avoid, maybe sudden, let's say, load or something like that. You don't want to create indexes at sudden moment, but initially you can start with reporting mode. What it will do is basically, even if you implement it, let's say you implement it, what will happen is Oracle will create a invisible, unusable mode index. Invisible means it's not visible to the optimizer, and it's unusable. Unusable means physically it's not there, but Oracle will try to hard parse behind the scenes for you. Hard parse. And it will see whether the query is, 3 times faster than the original one, right? If the initial query took 1 second, then the new query, then the new plan basically with this index has to be 3 times faster. So it's somewhere should be close to 300 millisecond if it has to defeat the original purpose, right? So and 3 times it must be better than original query in terms of CPU, CPU, and IO time. Okay, these are the 2 times which are compared. If it's better in CPU but not IO, it will still not consider it. It will ignore that. It will ignore it. So CPU and IO both has to be better 3 times, right? And it will rebuild the index if it finds better in the hard parts, and then it executes the statements and makes it visible if the performance is better. Uh, you know, um, basically, if it's better, it will do this at the third last stage. So rebuilding the indexes happens behind the scenes. Still now, we don't know whether performance is better or not. Now at this stage, after the statement is executed, now we determine whether we have to invisible it or still remain it with unusable state. So if it's blacklisted basically if the performance is very bad, right? And it's purged, it's gone forever if the performance is bad. So don't worry if the performance is bad for an index, it will be dropped after some time based on the retention period. DB underscore indexes has an auto column. If it's yes, that means it's autonomous. Smart scans have been, for quite some time now. There are always enhancements happening in smart scans because now it also supports a lot of decryption and encryption algorithms as well as joins. Previously, it didn't support hash joins and nested loops, but now it does support all of them basically, even sort merge joins, even Bloom filters, even index fastful scans, right? So smart scan, simply for the people who don't know what is smart scan means that queries offloaded to the storage server, because in old days, storage was dumb, right? So everything, if you select star from table and let's give you one example. If you do this, select count star from table where customer validate. Now, if there is no index, Oracle will read the whole table and bring it back to the compute node. So just imagine it's a 100 GB table, you're bringing it back to the compute node, right? It's wasting IO bandwidth as well as CPU as well as memory, because you're either using entire PGA or utilizing most of the buffer cache now, which is not needed. You just need 1 MB of information. Why do you need to bring or read 100 GB table? Okay, so Smart Scan, what it does is, without the index, it just brings the information that is required, right? So if you see in the execution plan, table access storage full in blue color. And if it's storage customer validate storage section in the predicate information, then it is Smart Scan. It's a Smart Scan only if the down both of the lines are blue. If you don't see storage section customer validate in the predicate information, then it's not a Smart Scan. You may still see the table access storage full in the execution plan, but sometimes you may not see storage section in the predicate information. Then it's not a Smart Scan. It's a Smart Scan only when both the things are visible to you. Okay, so this is the power of Smart Scan, right? In this case, if you see another example, explain plan for select count star from customer IoT where customer ID is less greater than 10,000. It's an index range scan. Can anybody tell me why it's not a smart scan? Well, the answer is it's not a smart scan because Oracle does not support index organized table, IoTs, for smart scans, right? So what you're going to do is basically compare your performances of smart scans versus your index scan. If your index scan is bad, plan, stop using your indexes, then drop indexes. Obviously, you will not drop all your indexes on the first day. You have to take baby steps, slowly and slowly. Week 1, week 2, start comparing performance testings. You know, Obviously, you will not be able to drop all your indexes because in most of the cases, index scan will be better than smart scan, let's say. But even if 40% of the time your smart scans are better, then drop your indexes which are not needed. You start monitoring your indexes, check $V index usage. If you think index is not used, you may drop them after a few days. Don't drop in production directly. Obviously, you will start doing some perf testing in UAT and the performance environments. Okay. So this is a good example. You count star from customer trying to do a full table scan without index where customer valid A. So you run this query, you join $V systat and $V mystat. So this will show you your session statistics. And if you see here, 18 GB table, physical reads total bytes. 18 GB table, 18,000 MB is 18 GB, and you would see 120 MB is only transferred from the cell physical IO interconnect bytes, right? So only 120 MB is transferred. What a great way of smart scan, right? You saved a lot of IO bandwidth. So let's say just like Karan, there are multiple sessions who are running full table scans on different tables. You would kill your IO bandwidth. You will suddenly start seeing cell multi-block read count and cell single block read count, and so on. Cell multi-block read count is the equivalent of DB file scattered read in non-exadata, and cell single block read is the equivalent of sequential read in non-exadata. Okay, so cell single block read and cell multi-block read are the exadata wait events. Okay, eligible for predicate offload 18 GB. Well, fine, eligibility is 18 GB, but just 120 MB is returned by smart scan, which is amazing, highlighted in blue. Okay, so now starting from 12, in fact, most recently after 12C and from 18C and 19C, the latest cell storage images, if they are heavily used, let's say the cells are at their capacity, CPU usage and the disk queues, or the disk bandwidth is almost full, IO bandwidth is almost full, and the cells are so busy. So Oracle will automatically divert the traffic and divert the offloading back to the compute node. So compute node says, if you are busy cell, give it to me, right? Cells may not have the capacity always, but yeah, most of them do have, because customers, what they do is they try to buy additional cells. It's not that, let's say in quarter rack, you have two compute nodes and 3 cells. Customers still have an option to buy 5 cells. If you are more IO oriented, I have seen customers having 5 compute nodes and just 2 cells, because their requirement was more memory, because they want to host more SGAs and PGAs, right? Right. Their demand was not much of a storage. But if you are mostly IO oriented, your requirement is more IOs, you buy more cells, 5 cells, 3 compute nodes, 3 cells, 2 compute nodes. So usually cells should be more than DB compute nodes if you have high IO demand. Okay. So storage, better place will be, AWR to check. So maybe in next, maybe after a couple of months, we can have another session only on AWR of Exadata. I usually use AWR of Exadata because it has amazing cell storage statistics, which tells you your IO bandwidth to compare from one machine to another, and what should be your future plan. Customers would want to migrate from or upgrade from X6 to X8 or X8 to X10, right? They want to see, that how much workload more they can put in X10M, because there's more memory, more CPU, they're expecting more memory as well in the storage as well, right? So they want to learn now that what are the workloads they want to transfer even from non-Exa to Exa now, along with the previous Exas, right? They want to, you know, uh, they want to read AWR reports as an expert and see how much more capacity they have, run a few workloads in XNM and slowly move on. If your X10M has some more capacity, time to migrate them as well, isn't it? But watch out your backup space as well. You may be using ZDLRA or ZFS for backup mounts, right? If you're migrating more databases, just make sure your backup capacity is also there. Your compute or IO may have capacity, but your mounts of backups may not have, right? So you've migrated, but now you cannot take backups, right? So I mean, look all the factors. AWR reports gives you compute and IO, but look at other factors as well: backup, appliances, how much space you have, and all that. Okay. Storage index is basically icing on cake. It's not same as smart scan. Storage index is something like for example, I go to Saudi Arabia, right, for let's say a holiday. I want to see Cristiano Ronaldo playing in, for Al Nasser Football Club. I want to see basically, I will book a hotel and I say, okay, where's my friend's room number? I want to meet him. Let's say I have a few more friends there. So I ask the receptionist says, okay, room number 204. So what I do is I skip floor 1 in the lift, right? and I go to floor 2 directly. So what I did, I saved my time. I skipped floor 1. Similarly, in a storage index, what happens is ASM has allocation units. So ASM has allocation units. Traditionally 4 MB is the allocation unit size. Every ASM disk will have allocation unit size. It's different from block size, by the way. Block size is usually 8 KB, right? Or a 16 KB in a warehouse system. But in ASM allocation unit, 1 MB, let's say, or 4 MB, or whatever, let's say 1 MB is the default. Okay. 4 MB is recommended in Exadata, but when 1 MB is the default, let's say. So you skip ASM in allocation unit 2, 3, and all of them because you know your data is in just first one. So you skip other allocation units, right? Skipping means more fast performance. You skip more IO scanning. You saved your scanning time because I skipped floor 1 and directly went to floor 2. Okay. So because if you see here in the memory, so storage index is an in-memory region index. It just holds the metadata. It does not hold the data. It holds the metadata. It says, okay, you said select star from T1 on the screen where B is less than 2. So it knows in the first region, B 1 to 5 is in first region. Okay, it's in the first region, 1 to 5. So it knows it's in which range. Similar to its in-memory columnar format feature of buffer cache. Just next to buffer cache, there is in-memory pool. Just like in-memory feature of memory, this storage index is equivalent of it, right? Little bit closer. We'll not talk about in-memory here because that's a different, interesting, feature and a software. But yeah, it's amazing as well. So similar to it, we have something called storage index. So you save your time on the IO. IORM is very important here. Now, people ask me IORM implementation. I straight away tell them if you just have 1 or 2 databases, you may not want to implement IORM. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. So basically, if you have 2 databases running, right? Okay, see, even in two databases, you may want IORM, to be honest. I'll tell you why. One database is more critical to IO, but second one is not. So let's say the first one does so many full table scans, that it's doing a lot of IO, but the second database is left with no IO bandwidth, for example, right? Although 2 databases on Exadata is very, very less. But that one database may run some workload which may bring down the first database. Okay. Just taking a hypothetical example, there may be 4 or 5 databases, to be honest, depending how much you have in your system. But if it's just one database, don't bother about it. Don't implement IORM at all, right? So the point is, but still depends on your priority, right? So the first priority is always given to control file heartbeat and the log writes, because log write is the critical and the control file heartbeat is the most critical IO. If that doesn't happen, database may be down, right? Or it may crash it. So these are the most 2 important IOs. After that comes user IOs and the checkpoints, database writer, checkpoints and the user application IOs with the same priority. So checkpoints and application IOs are of the same priority. So you basically give priority to the numbers. If you see in this example, you start from the bottom. For all your user IOs here, some may be interactive, because interactive, you want fast IO. Batch, okay, you may want, okay, they may not be of more priority. So you give them 40% to the batch. Now, of that 60%, you give 70 to database A and 30 to database B. 30% of 60%, remember, right? So shares are divided like this. And after that, you see database A of 70%, right? Now the second layer after category would be inter-database. Inter-database means 2 databases. Now Exadata IORM has to decide which database has more priority. Okay. There are 2 databases running. One is, let's say finance and second is production. You want to see or transactional, which one is more important, right? Inter-database. After that, we see intra-database. Intra-database means basically that inside the database, there may be multiple schemas, HR, different schemas, basically marketing schema, sales schema, which schema you want to give more priority, right? Right. So inside the database, consumer groups are there, consumer group 1, consumer group 2, and then you give IORM allocation. So if you see here at the last, at the top, 16.8 plus 11.2 of database A, two consumer groups, then plus 6.6 plus 5.4 plus 19.6, 22.4, and 4.5 and 3.5. The equivalent is 100. So this is the math, which IORM does, right? So we will be answering all your questions today. Don't worry, right? We have good time. We have 100 minutes of workshop today. So write back flash cache, you should consider. We as a customer do it, I'll tell you, to be honest. Why? Because your writes also go to flash directly. If you don't do it, your reads are read from flash, but not writes. Writes go to hard disks, magnetic hard disks. If you have if you don't have extreme flash storage, see, storage servers come in two flavors: extreme flash, and basically you can say extreme, basically, extreme storage, what you call elastic storage, basically, you can say. So that's basically mixed of hard disk as well as flash. So when you say hard disk, your writes go to hard disk, but reads are served from flash, most recently used data. You don't want that, writes to go to hard disk always. So what you can do is you can configure write back flash cache. Then your writes also go to flash, and then later on they're aged to hard disk, so that now write performance is also fast. Okay. So I've seen customers where they saw in AWR report, they say free buffer weights. A free buffer weight in Oracle performance tuning is you're trying to look for a free buffer, but there is no space in the buffer cache because the checkpoints are slow, or either the IOs are slow, or the buffer cache is too small. There can be some multiple reasons. So you increase the buffer cache, you increase the checkpoint database writer, still no improvement, right? But now, when you have your writes go to flash, your acknowledgement is very fast. Okay, so write back flash cache. Think about it. Your allocation unit size must be 4 MB. Like I said, as a best practice, make sure that your allocation unit size is 4 MB. Okay, these are real world best practices, right? Just think about it. And similarly, your log buffer should also be 256 MB. Log buffer, redo log buffer. People think a redo log buffer is not important. To be honest, if you have flashback enabled, the flashback buffers are served from the redo log buffer buffers as well, flashback buffers. Make sure, because you will have undo images as well in the flashback buffer cache, right? A recovery writer is the process which does IO to flash recovery area. So you need 256 MB of log buffer. That reduces a lot of log file sync as well. Okay, be careful. I mean, for real world practice, real world performance best practices, you can always come to us and ask, ask us anytime. We've done a lot of systems for customers, especially who are suffering from log file sync. Index usage, like I said, guys, if you have smart scans, obviously, you should compare with indexes, right? Now, obviously, when you have indexes, your smart scans may not be happening, isn't it? Because optimizer thinks index, it has index stats, right? So try to invisible your index and see smart scan is better or not. So don't drop your indexes from 11G. You don't want to drop your indexes, because from 11G you can invisible the indexes. So instead of dropping them, just invisible them. Invisible them will keep them physically, okay? And you can visible it back, right? Now be careful, because when I was doing, invisible index for a customer, a few DMLs were running and it kind of locked the table for a while, for a short while. So be careful, I mean, I had to cancel it in the first place because it was kind of an emergency situation for them. So then we had to cancel this particular command. But when we saw an opportunity where DML completed, we quickly completed it. It takes 1 second if there's no DML running, right? So it totally depends on the full table lock. Basically, it's a full table lock. Okay, alter index on a table basically is an exclusive lock, right? Now these are extent sizes. Make sure you have create table initial 8 MB as a extent size. What it happens is it makes alignment pretty good with the shade pool. So the shade pool of ASM instance is also important. right? The shade pool of ASM instance keeps the metadata about the disk groups, extents information, which extents are there in the cache or not, right? So basically, you should have 8 MB. By the way, if you have ever thought to how much SGA should be for ASM instance, well, it should be minimum, 1 GB, but recommended is 2 GB minimum. If you can have up to 4 GB, it's always good. 4 GB is good, right? But don't have it beyond that, right? Try to have single data disk groups. We've seen customers having 20 to 40 disk groups for every, I mean, in a single shared cluster, because why? It has a lot of metadata basically. Okay. The more the disk groups, more the metadata, right? So try to have just one disk group data and Rico for flash recovery area. That's it. Try to have big file table spaces, right? They have their own advantages, that's more optimal for striping across the available disks. Now when you migrate to Exadata, try to have system stats. You gather system stats when the performance is very good in the system. Don't gather them when your IOs are slow. So just imagine you are running system stats when there is IO slowness already. Your system is oversubscribed, and you've reached the limit. Now the system stats will be recorded in aux dollar sysstats table, and it will record slow information, some more milliseconds. You don't want that basically. So gather system stats when your system is performing good. Why? Because when the optimizer reads the aux dollar stats table, it knows your IO speed is better, and it can further recommend or use of an alternate execution plan like Smart Scan or some other execution plan. You only gather system stats when you have changed hardware. So when you change your hardware, you migrate to a new hardware, only then you gather system stats. People always ask me, Karan, when should we gather system stats? You only gather system stats when there is a hardware change, like Exadata, from non-Exa to Exa or X8 to X10. When you're doing database upgrade, all you need is just dictionary stats. If you're making SGA structure changes, you gather fixed object stats, right? There is, again, depends basically, so fixed object stats, are useful in that angle as well. So fixed object stats you gather when you have SGA structures like change. Okay, interesting. So now for more, you will get the slide deck, shared by our KSA, team. You will get the slide deck, the PDF form. So basically, I want to share more links basically. So this is the architecture which I took from Oracle documentation. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now basically. So you would see here the explanation is very nicely given here. Okay, there's a private network. When you say private network, this is a storage network interconnect. So when your compute nodes basically connect to the Exadata storage server cells, you see cells, right? So client network, as you know, the scan names scan via scan IP addresses, right? So they always, because scan name is public, so for client connectivity, it's always scan, right? So your client network is also displayed here. Client network is in the red color. See client, your bonded interface, net one and net two, right? So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is these are, see, now Exadata machine has different documentations. Okay. You should know which section you want to read actually. Now, this section, for example, makes you understand for network requirements. So I always believe network architecture is important, right? If you know where the components are, then only you can understand where you start troubleshooting. So that's why I always say architecture is more important. So even when we are hiring a DBA, we see if a guy knows 9i or 8i better, then he can understand 12c better or 19c better, right? Because he knows the, old things. He understands architecture pretty well, right? So if you know architecture of any software, that's more the better for you, right? Right. And this may be for data center teams, like for example, electrical, temperature, humidity requirements. For example, this is PU requirements. For example, how much voltage KVA single phase should be there, because every country has different phases, right? If you go to Europe, that may have a different power adapter. You ask your hotel guys, okay, hey, I have a MacBook, but I need a connector, universal adapter sort of things, right? So different different KVA single phase PDUs for North America. Europe has different requirement. You know, Japan has different requirements, right? So depends on which region you are. Japan, Taiwan, South America, these are the ones, right? But this is more for data center team. Every company has a data center team which maintains temperature of the data center. So that's for them actually. For you, it will be all the networking, VLANs, virtual LANs and networking. So what you need to do is be a storage person and the network person in the Exadata. That's where your Exadata skills will hone. That's where your Exadata skills will be, improved. Try to take root access. If you have root access, you are the luckiest person in the world. Why? Because you can actually go to every component and see what's going on and understand the architecture. Read the /etc sysconfig network directory, understand the files there, go to /etc oracle cellip.ora. Cellip.ora is an important file which lists down the IP addresses of the cells from compute node, right? Cellip.ora. Just like your spfile.ora, there is a cellip.ora in the /etc oracle hosts, cell hosts directory. Okay. So these are some interesting documents. Now, so again, like I said, you have to go to if you go to engineered systems. Okay, let's go to the home page. Let's guide you where you exactly have to go. So so Exadata documentation, clouds is also there, ZDLRA, recovery appliance, database appliance, private cloud appliance, ZFS, you know. Well, there are a lot of things actually, but what we want to focus is if you go to Exadata. Now, there are different documentation. So learn about the Exadata machine, learn about the technical architecture. Wow. So there's a link for the technical architecture. Then there is new features in the hardware components, which component you want, understand the Exadata OEDA, deployment assistant, which is like a DBCA. You mentioned your IP address ranges, like for scan name and public IP addresses, I want this IP address range, and then you run OEDA, one command, and your rack is installed, and so on. So in the initial phase, so what you want to do, install the Exadata machine, you click on it, install, when you click on install, basically, you get the installation. When you say installation, it's not the grid infrastructure software installation, it's the implementation installing of the rack. All right, installation of physical rack, right? So this is also there, by the way, and that's what I usually do when I have to tell my data center team, because I'm not always at the data center, right? What I tell my data center team is, I give this snapshot to them. Just look at this port and tell me, what does the LED light says? Is it flickering? Is the light flickering? Check the cable. Is the cable loose? Is the cable gone bad? Try to reseat the cable. Reseat the cable simply means removing the cable and plugging it back, and it's fixed. The issue is fixed, right? So your data center team will keep telling you, okay, we see, amber lights, amber warning lights, there are some issues. So these are the snapshots which you tell your data center team to go there and see this particular snapshot, and they will literally, you know, go to this particular location if you give them correct snapshots on the email. Okay. So when you read this documentation, give them snapshot that check this particular port, or, check this particular cable. That's how you guide your hardware data center team. You won't be going to data centers, right? If you are in the Middle East or India, if your data center, let's say now we have data center in Oracle Riyadh as well, by the way. So you don't want to go to, let's say Jeddah to Riyadh always and take a flight and see what's going on in the data center. You can just email your hardware team and they will take care of it, right? So now, let me give you the link as well, by the way, along way on the chat actually. So how do I meeting group chat? Just see if you get all of them. I've given it all. Now, this is another link I wanted to share actually. Why I've opened this link is I want to share with all of you is that the IORM, basically, if I go to home page here, uh, not this one, but this is much better. Okay. So to understand a system, it's better to use on-premises documentation rather than a cloud. So this is on-premises because if you see here, it says cloud infrastructure, right? So it will give you, okay, click here. For example, open the navigation menu, click database service on dedicated infrastructure, choose your compartment, click here, click there, click enable IORM, you choose your IORM objective. This is cloud documentation, with that graphically what you will do, right? Or via command line or API. But again, if you are in on-premises for understanding basis, so one more thing I wanted to talk about is that when you set your IORM plan, you always have an IORM objective. An IORM objective actually tells you what your goal is. The best value should be auto. Some customers have basic, so time to get rid of basic and go to auto. Now you can also set low latency, for example. If your workload is critical OLTP workload, you can always set to OLTP as well. So that means what? That your latency, flash cache latency would be more, a latency specific. So for example, if you do a full table scan, right? Oracle may say, this may go on forever. Let's try to prioritize a DML first, right? Because DML is more low latency demanding. A full table scan of a 100 GB table may take some while, a short while, but for me, a microsecond DML is more important. I have to do an insert on an update, in a batch quickly, 100 DMLs, 500 DMLs, right? But you can also prioritize high throughput. You're doing a lot of scanning, full table scans, aggregated workload, count star, group by. These are more of high throughput or, your warehouse specific, where your throughput is more important. Customer used to keep balanced, but what we do now, we keep auto. Auto is best. Okay. And similarly, I hope I've given you this link. Just to be sure, I'll give you again. Yeah, I've given it here. So just to be sure, and what you need to basically do is here about XRMEM cache management. Now this is a new feature in XNM. What this will do is in the memory tier, you have typically, if I show you the storage sheet, now this is the data sheet of XNM. If you see here, right, for example, in a quarter rack, right, you have, let's say, 3 storage servers, 192 cores in total. Okay, quarter rack, 2 compute nodes, 384 cores. 384 divided by 3, is something 100 something. Okay. Not 100 something, but actually more than 150. So if you see here, a database server compute node, right? Or the storage cell, if you see 1.25 TB of XRMEM. Now this 1.25 TB of XRMEM is a cache tier for you, a RAM cache tier for you. Your reads will directly be read from this memory. And this is faster than flash. Okay, 1.25 TB per cell. So if you have 3 cells, just multiply it with 3. This much of XRMEM memory you have. This is what I was talking about earlier. You have more memory and more compute now when it comes to AMD processor. So now you will all see AMD processors, right? So being a computer, performance geek as well, I personally, I'm also buying AMDs now. My laptop is latest is AMD now. Why? Because I hate things which is slow, right? When I boot my laptop, an AMD processor will boot in a couple of seconds, right? I mean, you will be totally impressed with AMD, which is why Oracle is moving from Intel to AMD, right? So I hate things which are slow. When I launch something in my laptop, it's launching slowly. But if faster with AMD, I would be much happier person, right? So people are moving to AMD slowly, and even Oracle, right? So, so yeah, 1.25. So coming back to the IORM, what you need to do is you say alter IORM plan, and you say XRMM cache minimum for a database. So one particular database can have minimum reservation for your memory. This is a hard limit. So you can say database A is more important for me. Set okay, 500 GB for it. And non-important 100 GB. Because you have 1.5 TB available, you have more important databases, give them 400 GB each, 3 to them. 400 GB into three databases important, 1200 GB. Remaining you can give to non-important ones. Similarly, you set for flash cache as well, isn't it? You have been doing flash cache IRM for a long time. Flash cache is also important, right? But this is a layer which is even faster than flash, right? You can give this limit. If XR mem cache is not full, a database can exceed this value, cache limit value, right? So these are very important attributes, and this is how you improve your IO speed. PMEM cache is only in X8M. X8M, well, I have not worked with X9M to be honest, so I don't know about X9s. I'm a X10 person now, so we have very soon coming X10M either for Azure. The decisions will be soon, very soon. Exadata at Azure, and whether uh, some of them are already have reached site. So X10M is about to happen for us very soon. But I've not worked on X9. X8M is purely PMM cache based. So I don't want to commit. Well, it says X9 has PMM. That's the answer you've already got. So X9M has persistent memory, PMEM cache, which is Intel Optane memory. But if you're in X10M now, you're done with the Intel Optane. You don't have Intel Optane now. What you have? XRMEM, XRMEM cache size, right? Just imagine you're saying SGMAX size, right? So you can tune the storage like this. XRMEM minimum cache, PMEM cache. I mean, PMEM is XATM thing. So these are very, very, let me give you the data sheet as well. So this sheet basically tells you the hardware numbers, right? Now remember, first most important thing, don't basically open the wrong sheet, because some customers by mistake, what they do is they open, okay, when they say X8M, okay, data sheet, your version might be different, right? X10M, what you need to do is you need to clearly write X10M -2 or -8. 8 socket. 8 means 8 socket, 2 means 2 socket. Your 8 socket will have more memory, isn't it? More CPUs basically. See, X8M8 versus X8M2, for example. Okay, you would see the difference in the number itself, right? So when you say data sheet, 8 here means the sockets. You would literally see the socket meaning and how much CPUs. So each socket can have certain number of so it's, you see here, 8 into 24 Intel Xeon processors. 8 into 24, because you have 8 sockets now. But there you have 2 sockets, so there'll be 2 into the number of CPUs in each socket which can fit. When you go down, the more down you go, the more numbers you get, because initially it's the technical explanation. See, it's 2 sockets, 2 into 24. So be careful which sheet you're opening. So if you're opening X10M2 or X10M8, okay? So be careful. Again, I mean, an example, maybe I can give you this sheet in the chat. Okay, now let me take few questions, because the thing is, we want to have conversations as well, yeah? That's why it's connect with Karan, thanks to the KSA team, that to open a forum where you can ask and talk. So yeah, questions are also important, because although luckily I was able to cover the agenda, but yeah, let's have more brainstorming. If anyone wants to ask questions, I'm there. Although we have 30 minutes, I have something more to present. So anyone wants to ask any question? I'm sure people want to.
Karan, you saw some questions up there in the chart, I think.
Uh, oh,
The,
in the chat. Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay, good. So we have questions in the chat.
yeah, the
So the
first
first,
question. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
can ask. Hello, Karan. Thanks for the beautiful session that you have taken so far. This is Rajesh. So my question was on the create quarantine command, right? So as you said, this is to be done at the cell CLI, right? So does that mean that with XSCC that feature would be beyond our reach?
yes, because the quarantine basically, because the cloud at customer offers you that you have database compute node access. Let's say you have Oracle or a grid user access. Unfortunately, you will not have root access as a customer, okay? Because Root access, what it means is basically you won't have root cell-based access. So Oracle will do that from the backend. I mean, if they want to do something, right? So Cloud Customer will limit the stuff which you can do directly, which is why, because they have more control plane, right? They will do patching for themselves, and they will not rely on you for passwords, right? They can directly go into your system without even asking a password from you. So that's what the benefit of XACC is, that Oracle have control plane and they can do things from backend. I mean, you just are limited to Oracle access, database access, you can say. Yeah, Oracle Aura Grid. You can still physically go to server with Oracle Aura Grid, but not as root. You know,
No, no,
that's the
root access we have, Karan, but only on the virtual machines, basically. The physical
exactly.
hardware root access we don't have, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, that you will not
Yeah.
have storage cell access, for example, root, because
Right.
root does not have Oracle Aura Grid user, right? Root cell only has cell admin, cell monitor user, and the root user. So when I say cell, Rocky switches or cells, you don't have access to it, right?
True.
But you
True.
will only have access to the compute node. I should have used the word compute node. Okay. So you have compute node access, but you don't have Rocky switches cells access, unfortunately. That's controlled by Oracle.
Yeah, makes us
So,
half a DB, half a DMA.
uh, well, then join Oracle then.
Right.
Right. So Oracle, to be honest, people ask us about careers. Oracle is hiring at huge level because if everybody is going to cloud will need, DBAs now, right? If things break there, they need a DBA there. So that's why Oracle has done so much hiring in the last 1 or 2 years. AWS, and so on. So uh, next question. Uh, Next question, have to check which columns in a table have storage indexes created. I think latest version supports up to 24 columns per table. That's right, actually. 24 columns have been supported last. I have to check the latest software image version, but you're right. The 19C images supported 24 columns for storage indexes. But yes, you don't have to manage storage indexes. You don't have to drop them. You don't have to create them. They are created transparently based on your query workload. So the benefit you get in the second execution, not the first execution, because Oracle learns in the first execution. So 24 columns per table. Is there a way we could practice Exadata on a VM box or something? Unfortunately, no, because in the history, there were simulators available, but now Oracle has not given them now. I mean, they're not publicly available. So at the moment, if you want, yes, you can use cloud free credits, the $300 which you get for free, and try to see if you get, how much days of access you get, depending on how much, you consume the credits. Okay, Riaz, okay, the interview selection process, okay, that's, I think, for the HR. How can we restrict compute node to use specific cells? That's a good question. How you can do is, there is a topic called ASM. Well, that's actually a good question. There is Exadata. I'll open that for you. ASM scoped security. Scoped. We have not done that ever because there was never a need. But if that happens, you can limit a compute node to access a cell, or even even a grid disk actually. Even a ASM grid disk you can basically disable. So there's a scoped ASM based scope security which you have an option. I hope this shows all the steps here, but if not, then I'll have to get back to you via email or something. So this, if you see the screen here, ASM scope security. So the ASM scope security, what it does is, for some databases, you are basically disallowing the grid disk access. But when you talk about database scope security, you are also restricting access to database instance to a specific set of grid disks. This is topic of database instances, and this is talking about basically the grid disk. You can restrict access to grid disk by using disk groups. Okay, that's for disk group. And another thing which you can actually do is, uh, that there's a cell ip.ora file. If you put whatever IP addresses you put there from compute node, only that cell is visible to you. That way also you can get a hack of it. And another thing which you can actually do is from your rack cluster, make you basically exchange the keys with the cell key.ora file, so that your rack cluster from compute node can only access that particular set of grid disks, right?
Maybe Karan, he's asking like some customization. Like for example, I see one of the bank in Saudi, Al Raji Bank. They took I think a full rack or half rack. I can't recall. And then what they did, they split this cluster into multiple. And then this DB node belongs to this database, and then the cell node should attach to this databases, etc. So I think he's talking about more about customization. I guess I don't know. You have
Mhm.
to let him
Right.
ask to unmute himself and then
Right,
ask.
right. Please. Yeah, yeah. So your question, before
Yeah,
you, explain more your question, I would like to say there can be three scenarios in your case. The scenarios which I've shown is, one is you want to see your rack cluster or compute node ASM instance, your ASM instance of a compute node. I'm talking about single node only. There can be multiple nodes. So let's say your node one ASM instance, you want to restrict to certain grid disk. That's one thing you can do. Second, that's ASM-based scope security. Second thing is database scope security, where database instance you're restricting to a particular set of ASM disks. That's point two. Third point, which if you also mean that I want to restrict the entire cell to the compute node, that is also possible. So you have to go to etc Oracle network config directory. There is another file which they have not mentioned here, is cell ip.ora. So if you remove the host IP of the cell, that cell will be not visible to that node. Now
That's
I'll give you a
exactly he's
chance
asking.
to.
oh
Yeah.
great. That's great. I was looking for that.
Okay,
Thanks, Karan.
but you may not want to do that actually, because if you are talking about okay, see if okay, I got your point. So basically, you would want to hide that cell from the compute node.
Yeah, that's pretty much for a customization purpose because we do
Mhm.
have a couple of Excel data. So the customers are actually they have a different applications. They want the customization from us. So I was looking for that reason only.
Actually, okay, I can give you another good solution. What you can actually do is when you create a disk group. Okay, I have that slide actually. Luckily, I guess I have that slide. Yes. Now, when you create a disk group, do you see disk here? O/star.
Right.
Now, O means O is the first thing, right? It's a root. It has to come. It's like a root of slash of Linux file system. O is mandatory. Now, in this star here, star means all the cells. If you just put single cell name here, you will restrict to just single cell for that database disk group.
Okay.
Okay, this is another hack.
Super.
But
So
yeah,
one
go ahead.
top up question, Karan. Why do we need to do that? Like when we are restricting it to a particular cell node, right? Aren't we restricting the striping or the failover feature of the data as well?
Yeah, there will be a risk.
Exactly. See, performance will be
Yeah.
compromised for sure.
So
Data will
Striping.
also
performance would be
data will be
compromised,
lost.
and also the availability, right? If a disk in the cell node fails, since you have restricted your data to that particular cell node, you might not get the backup of it mm, through the disk striping, right?
Okay. Maybe he wants two cells instead of one. Maybe he has normal redundancy. So two cells should be good for him. So if they have five cells, like let's say they have full rack, 14 cells. They may not want
Mhm.
to give all 14 cells. Maybe they want to give just four cells. So that's a good way, I think, for them. So four cells should be good enough for one set database for them. Maybe that's their requirement. Okay, let's take another question. Let me see the chat if anyone wants to. Okay, I have another good question. Okay, Riyaz says Alter System DBMS Resource Manager, CPU mapping, DB. Okay, that's another way which Riyaz has given. Resource Manager. I haven't tried this option, but thanks for sharing, Riyaz. So Riyaz has given a very nice command. He says Alter
Yeah,
System Set Resource Manager, CPU mapping. But Riyaz, is this just CPU restriction or the entire cell?
I think
Uh,
it's CPU mapping. It looks like
yeah, yeah.
because it's a DBRM.
Okay, I see. But that's a very good command actually. So what I
yeah,
think what Riyaz means is that you are restricting CPUs as well. So instead of storage, you can restrict CPUs as well. That's a very nice command. Thanks, Riyaz, for sharing. Okay. I have never used this command because our customer wants to go full throttle. They want to use all the cells. So they have 5 cells. They want to use all 5 cells. So, but that's a good command. Thanks for sharing, Riaz. So CPU restriction is also possible. And another question from anyone. Okay, Mohammed, I think Ikram, we answered your question.
Yeah. Thanks, Karan. Thanks, Riyaz, for the command.
Thank you, Riaz. I think, well, okay. I think we answered all the questions. We have a new message. Uh, I do not have any technical query as of today, but as a beginner in Exadata technology, I'm eager to enhance my skills and knowledge in implementation. And I just want to inquire if there are any upcoming live courses available for beginners like myself. See, we are not training organization for sure, but you may want to reach out Basha and Zahir, how they want to, arrange the courses for you, or which are the better trainings like Oracle University, or or some other, So better to reach Zahir and Basha, how you can get courses or trainings, right? Because if you ask me Oracle University, okay, learn Oracle from Oracle, because if you go to learn.oracle.com, you have a lot of things. But if you're looking for specific course, again, better to you can talk to Basha and Zahir. Uh, yeah, I think that was one more question. So, uh, yeah, I agree. Yes, that's definitely costly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
Karan,
think I'm
one,
done. Yeah, yeah.
sorry, please go ahead.
No, no, I think, yeah, I wanted to cover ASM scope security also, which is quite good. Let me share this page with you. So I think that's a good question, which also covered one of my topics as well. Yeah, please go on with the questions. Agenda is pretty much good now. We have covered, I think.
Okay, well, with regards to the IOM, right? When we set it to auto, right? Does it take care of both flavors of database like DS as well as OLTP?
Yes, yes. Auto is automatically it will cater your workloads. So it tries to understand, your latency specific workloads as well as analytics or DSS based. So it's good for both. Right.
Okay.
Our next decision will actually be also that we are trying to combine DSS as well as OLTP together in a single box for the first time, which has not happened yet. After 3 months, it will happen. So we will do some testing first in the UAT environment on the similar Exadata hardware, where we might cap an IORM plan that says, that database A has 4 shares, but database B has 2 shares. So the database which has 4 shares is double more important than the database which is 2 shares. So it's a maths basically. 4 is double important than number 2, right? So that database will get more shares, and also we might increase more flash, more flash allocation to them. So let's say in a single storage, we have 24 TB flash with 3 flash cards, right? So we out of 24 TB, we can say 16 to one database and remaining 7 to second database, because 1 TB is reserved. So this is and always go to AWR cell storage statistics, where you can actually see the latency of one particular database. I wish I had a AWR report. Maybe we can do it in next time, like interpreting Exadata AWR report. So there you can see whether your latency is coming in microseconds. So there are two kinds of latency. You would see flash latency and hard disk latency. Flash is usually always microsecond. But if hard disk is microsecond, that means your reads are served by flash itself, reads and writes. But they are coming in milliseconds. Either you are not in write back mode, you are in write through mode. But if you're still in write back mode, something is wrong in your system. You need to see, that what's wrong, that why your latency is coming millisecond for hard disk as well, because we expect your reads to be served from flash itself, because of the caching algorithm Oracle uses for flash, if it's a mixed storage, of flash and a hard disk. So again, I mean, if you have any questions or confusion, always reach out to us for any questions. But yeah, this is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
any other question?
Yeah, hi Karan. I have some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, means why Oracle remove persistent memory in X10? The only reason is that they introduce AMD process, or is any other reason?
Uh, Sorry, I missed your question. Are you saying, sorry, can you repeat, by the way, just the first
Yeah,
maybe?
means why Oracle remove persistent memory in X10?
Okay.
The only reason is that they introduce AMD process, or is some other reason?
Uh, yes, mainly it's because of the innovation that they have done with AMD.
Okay,
Because the challenge with persistent memory in XA10 was that, see, Oracle always wants 4 to 5 times more speed in every Exadata version. Okay.
correct, correct.
X10M with AMD partnership gave them that benefit that reads can be served directly from RAM. Just imagine RAM,
Mhm, mhm,
memory, literally,
mhm.
which is obviously faster than Flash, right?
Correct, correct, correct.
And that is the biggest reason, and more memory capacity and more cores being offered by AMD per socket, right? So this is the groundbreaking innovation, which they've done. So I am 100% sure it's only because that AMD could offer them that this huge change, that's why, they have, done this innovation. So yes, my answer would be yes, because of, wow, I think you guys are lucky. I was able to open a AWR report. Okay. So my answer is yes, because of AMD, they were able to
Mhm.
do it. Maybe Intel could not do it, of course. I know,
Okay.
sorry for Intel, but AMD, nailed it. See, this is the AWR report, guys.
Mhm,
Okay, see. So you have flash latency, okay, and you have disk latency. So the disk latency, hard disk latency is coming 128 microsecond. US means microsecond, right? And flash is always 120 microseconds. I mean, in this case, in this particular customer, okay. Forget about this customer. This is some, unknown customer, which I will not disclose. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not my company. It's some other previous thing. So 120 microsecond. But hard disk, if you see in millisecond, that's more dangerous. Okay, because if you see here, other here means 4 millisecond. That you don't bother, right? Your database is not coming here. But to be frank, your other means here a lot of things. Others can mean hard disk scrubbing. It can mean ASM disk group rebalance. It can mean your ACFS file system and so on. But don't bother as long as your database is not coming here. Okay. If you see them in millisecond, reach out to us, right? So this is a big section which explains cell storage, which perhaps we have to do another maybe 1 or 2 hours more of session. But yeah, this is one. I mean, I'm glad I was able to share it with you. So you have this wonderful section which is known as. It starts from here. Actually, I'll show you. It starts from here. Exadata configuration and statistics. Show you server storage, and just keeps going forever. This is the X8M, I guess, PMM cache, right? So yeah. So this is one AWR report I could share with you. So last but not the least, to wrap up, you have a wonderful section called top database by IO throughput per cell, right? So what this says is that total MB of IO throughput which you have done, right? But remember, for latency, you have to go to that section which I showed you, that microsecond latency, right? Flash IOs, disk IOs, hard disk IOs per second, how much you did, and so basically if how many IOs you're able to serve, that's also important, right? Cancelled IOs, I mean, well, it's not important because usually they might ask you in interviews, but cancelled IO simply means there's an issue with the cell. Oracle cancels the IO and you divert to other cell. It's only when your cell is gone bad. It's a very rare situation. It may happen once in 2 3 years. So cancelled IOs, don't bother about it, right? And so these are some critical sections where you will not get this report if you don't have sysdb access. If you run it with the select catalog role, let's say, you won't get everything like this. So that's why I always say that in AWR for Exadata is another thing. It's next level. You literally know what your storage is doing, literally. See flash cache, user reads efficiency, how much hit percentage you got. Sorry, how much hit percentage you got for flash cache. So a lot of things are there, right? Obviously, I cannot share this AWR report because it's a some customer, but maybe we can plan a AWR session for Exadata, especially for Exadata AWR session. Maybe we can have it after a few months, 3 4 months, and So always reach out to KSA, KSA, what I call the leaders, which are Zahir and Basha, for any questions, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions. And I'm sure we did, like today. So
Yeah,
still,
Karan,
if
I
you have
have
any,
one more
yes,
question.
yes, Sumit, please.
Yeah, suppose in my previous project we are using X9,
Okay.
and on one of the cell server we are facing some means disk issue, means disk is corrupted, or that one, that is some issue. And at that time there are n number of databases are accessing the storage from that particular that node, cell node. So is there any way to find out which form means which are the compute nodes are connecting to that particular cell?
Okay. See, first of all, when your disk goes bad in
Mm-hmm.
ASM,
Mm-hmm.
it is dropped, as you know. You
Yeah,
use something
correct.
called disk repair time. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, hardware failures are bound to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you one example. So any component in Exadata which fails,
Mm-hmm.
Oracle simply disables it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's take an
Correct.
example. Let's say one example, you have a DIMM slot failure
Mm-hmm.
in RAM. You have a
Mm-hmm.
compute node or storage, the DIMM has failed.
Mm-hmm.
DIMM has completely failed, and it's a hardware component because of a RAM.
Mm-hmm.
And there are DIMM slots in RAM, right? Some are
Mm-hmm.
100 GB, some are 200 GB. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
you have 750 GB RAM of in a compute node. Now, if one single DIMM has failed and you run a command free-m, you would not see 750 GB. You would see minus 100 something because that one DIMM slot has failed, right? If
Mm-hmm.
something fails as a hardware component, Oracle disables it, and it's
Correct.
not
Correct.
used by the system.
Mm-hmm.
Then Oracle gets an alert, you get an alert, you raise SR or it's raised by auto SR. Hardware engineer comes, replace your component, you are up and running. Okay,
That
this
is
is
that is okay, Karan. That is okay. But
okay.
my question is that from cell server, how could I know the which are the databases are connecting to that particular cell? Suppose if there are hundreds VMs are connecting to that cell, and I recently joined that project and I got this SR is assigned to me. So how could I know that these 100 servers are connecting from 100, the 50 are connecting to this my cell server and 50 are connecting to other cell servers? Is there any way, means from the list database, I can find out all the list of the databases, but some are active, some are inactive. But is there any other way to find out are the active databases which are connecting to that particular cell?
See, I'll give a simple solution for it. You simply
Mhm.
create a shell code and you
Mhm.
grep smon running on that database server. Okay.
Okay.
Now, from that VM where you grep smon means your database instance is active, right?
Mhm.
And whatever cell you are able to connect it from cell ip.aura,
Mhm.
right? And you are able to reach that particular cell. And
Mhm.
if you have not done ASM based scope security, otherwise you go to cell CLI of storage of that
Mhm.
particular cell and
Mhm.
list DB unique name from that particular cell. Let's say you can read any statistics. For example, how much flash cache is used by all the databases on the cell. Okay. Because when you go to cell CLI, you read information about that cell only, not all the
Mhm.
cells.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So that's another solution.
Okay. Let me check why this one. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any more question?
There is a message in the chat from Nasiruddin. Can you check the chat?
Sure, sure. Where is okay. As mentioned that Oracle need more DBA, okay, but Oracle promoting to use autonomous uh, to customers and show. Question is, what is the role of DBA in Oracle Autonomous? Right. So that's a good question. See, I have never worked in autonomous, but what I can say is industry is changing at a rapid pace. If you talk about generative AI, there is a huge fear among developers that they could be replaced, right? The simple code, can be written by generative AI. You just tell what to do and it will do it. Okay. So similarly, if anything happens now when it comes to autonomous, it does not mean a human, is not needed. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of work. If your company is, you are not working for Oracle. Let's say you're not working for Oracle and you're working for a bank or XYZ company and they go to autonomous, what work will you have, right? So obviously a lot of works has already been automated because of autonomous, right? Now, what you can actually do is you can start participating in designing. There will be still a lot of things which you have to do in autonomous, like workload management, performance, basically limitations. For example, cost management is another word. Now, today, a DBA is better if they can reduce cost for the company, right? So if you just think about it, you tune an execution plan, to use less IO by removing an index, right? By using smart scan or maybe using an index, you use less IO, which means less cost, right? So the more the more cost you can reduce for your company, better it is, right? So try participating in application design, try participating in cloud architecture. I always say subnetting. People are able to launch VCN inside VCN. They're able to launch their instances like in Amazon EC2 or cloud, Oracle Cloud OCI instances, right? Do they know how these subnets communicate with each other? Subnetting, virtualization. So these are the skills which will help you, and try to do automation. If if you are a coder already, automation will help you as a DBA. That's the perfect combination, I would say. If you know how to do coding as a DBA, that's the best thing. But if not, then architecture and application design is another great thing to do, along with networking, virtualization, storage knowledge, just like we shared in Exadata. So these are the skills which can really help you. Yes. Rajesh, any question?
Yeah, one final question, Karan. So, with regards to AI and ML, right? So, I mean, although this is out of the scope of this discussion, but just to have your views, right? What are the use cases you may think in the DBA domain, right? With AI, I mean, do you see as a DBA using the Oracle software, right? What AI implementations or use cases we can have?
Okay. Okay. You mean use cases for generative AI?
Yeah, Gen AI. That, I mean, this is the buzzword across various organizations, especially the service ones, right? So, so the, I mean, as a DBAs or DMAs, whatever our role is, what kind of use cases or scenarios you think that can be part of Gen AI or so?
Yeah. So if you are using generative AI, let's say your company plans to onboard something like Copilot or something similar to ChatGPT 4. Copilot is also powered by GPT 4, or so similar, something similar to Copilot. Let's say something similar to ChatGPT 4. Let's say, and your company onboarded it, or you are using Oracle Gen AI cloud service. So the first question which your manager might want to ask you is what you can do. Have a basically a use case, what you can do as a DBA. See, if you take my opinion, obviously there are a lot of use cases. I mean, if you're asking specifically for DBA, apart from healthcare, marketing, you're creating algorithms, designing neural network, or maybe having text to speech conversion, generating images, all these things are obviously maybe not a DBA's task, but if you want to have a use case of a DBA, well, I would start with, something for security, cyber security, like if you start scanning your listener logs for all your databases and your unified audit data, just see what kind of security leaks you still have open. Like, for example, CIS compliance, right? It's important today. If you're not CIS compliant, you are very, very vulnerable in the market, right? So try to have security logs scanning via generative AI, and get alerts that you may be under threat or vulnerability. Your people, your system is not secure. Basically, unauthorized people are trying to access. There are some developers who have write privilege in a read role. So try to find some loopholes in your company. So I would say, obviously not fraud detection. Fraud detection would be like a bank, but detective controls when it comes to security of a DBA. Try to think of a use case where you can implement a vault or a firewall of a database. Like 23C is coming. 23C is coming inbuilt Oracle firewall. right? How are you going to use that? That's going to change the game, right? To secure your company's, infrastructure and databases. So to start with, I can say security is the best place to start with. There can be other ways as well. Performance tuning. You make a AWR warehouse, train using a LLM model, make a model where you feed into a lot of AWR reports and let the LLM model learn the performance metrics, and then based on that it may give you suggestions, start predicting performance issues, or all the things which are possible with generative AI, right? So security, but the first thing which comes to my mind is security, because I am predicting after 5 years even performance tuning might be very less, because today if you go to a system, you gather stats, 70% of the performance issues are solved, right? I don't even have to think about a histogram bucket. I remember since last 6 years, I have not used histogram bucket. Why? Because DBMS stats, gather stats takes care of itself, right? Or my manager, might not ask me a rack skill. He might not ask me, Karan, have you done CRS-CTL query, CSS vote disk, voting disk, or a OCR disk, right? I don't need to do it, right? So definitely skills become obsolete, but generative AI, try to see about security in the first place, and yeah, all these things. It's really amazing, things industry is changing. So yeah, all the best. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
excellent. Thank you,
Yeah,
Karan.
thank you.
Yeah, but RAG is the core product of the Oracle. So
Why
in
not? Why not?
future,
See, that is why I say, see, being a performance tuning DBA myself, it
Mhm,
doesn't mean I have not done a histogram stat, doesn't mean my work is finished. What
mhm,
I try to find is today is storage loopholes. I catch the storage team where there is I see IO latency is little high. I try
mhm,
to see, CPU and operating system issues, right? So because it's really important where your storage is relying, for your Oracle systems. Is it backed by RAID 1? Is it backed by RAID 5? RAID 5 is slower compared to RAID 1, right? So you go to complex infrastructure issues now, right? Be more
mhm,
smart. There is a lot of work in terms of infrastructure issues as well. That's why there are more architecture roles now, right? So I still remember 6 months back, I convinced my storage team to move from RAID 5 to RAID 1 for a Dell EMC RAID array. Why? Because RAID 5, if you see read Oracle docs, redo log file should never be kept on RAID 5. Okay. So work will never finish, to be honest. If you
mhm,
know, if you know under the hood more things about hardware and network, so upskill is more important.
correct,
So
correct.
try to upskill and learn all these things, hardware related or infrastructure related. Why I became Exadata DBA was because I was VMware certified. I had storage knowledge. I had Linux knowledge. That's why I was to become a better Exadata DBA. So it's about upscaling as well. The more upscaling we have, one of my person in a company says, a very senior person, he said, everybody should know everything now, right? So that's the way
Correct,
to
correct.
that's the way to go. So obviously we can't do everything, but 3 skills minimum.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
But as the one of the guys said, the optimizer states will collect the states automatically in 19C. But if the Oracle database on the SAP, and SAP simply say that please disable these jobs.
Yes, because even if you disable auto stats, you still have nightly maintenance window stats, right?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, if I understand, is what you're talking about is auto real-time DML statistics, if I understand
Mhm,
what you mean by that, right? So if you mean real-time statistics, yes, customer disable it, but then nightly automatic stats gather is also there, right? You have baselines, you have SQL profiles.
mhm, mhm.
So yeah, I mean, well, there is still a lot of work actually, in terms of baselines, profiling, execution plans. There is still a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
work actually.
Mhm.
But if your role have less of this volume, maybe you try to find a role where you have more volume. For example, I would say, luckily we have good enough volume. So if you have less volume, try to find a role which has more volume. So try to maybe change a customer, okay, and see that they have more work for you, more performance tuning stuff for you. Propose them, reach out to your customers that we want to, scan your systems and we want to recommend you tuning, right? So for example, I was talking about you should not multiplex your redo log files and control files now. You know why? Because ASM has redundancy, high level redundancy. It's already three-way mirroring. Why do you need to mirror the redo log files, right? You can improve your redo log file sync speed. You can have log buffer to 256 MB to improve your log file sync speed, right? Real world best practices, approach your customers, scan their systems, recommend them, all these things. So yeah, that's the way to go. Okay, thank you, Sumit. Thank you for asking. Any other question? So looks like we have covered, yeah, I think 100 minutes. We are pretty much over 100 minutes, which is very good. We covered, I think, good enough information. We had good questions as well. Thanks to the question. So yeah, so thank you so much, and a big thanks to my second home, which is KSA community and my Middle East people. It's always been a second home. I always miss those days where I used to go to the beach and read a book. I still remember. I still have those photographs. So yeah, I mean, I miss my old days. I wish, yeah, looking forward, to help everybody there. Thank you so much.
Karan, I think we should have AWR on Accelerator. I mean, how
Sure.
we understand, because
Sure.
maybe very soon. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Basha. Thank you.
Thanks, Karan, for the wonderful session. Thanks for making it.
Sure. Thank you,
See you in
Zahir.
another episode.
Sure. Thank you,
Thank you,
Zahir.
Karan. Thanks for
Thank
nice
you. Thank you,
explanation
Karan.
for the email and
Thank you,
AI.
everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Karan.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all
Thank you.
then. Have a